Well, hello there. I do hope you're all well. Yesterday I made a video about a Twitter thread written by an 8th generation oysterman, an expert in the field he talks about. And I was thinking about maybe leaving it there and maybe moving on to something else, possibly Brexit related or something else. Then I received a very interesting comment down the comment section, and I've got to admit, I've had some beauties this week. More than usual. I might have to make a video of some of these belters. Absolutely hilariously funny. I don't know yet, maybe. But this one said, there must be money to be made out of all these Ramona channels. No, don't make a penny. I'm a terrible shill, unfortunately. Maybe I'll start one myself. Knock yourself out, mate. I noticed this presenter has even started saying hey ho like his hero James O'Brien. I think you'll find in your circles his name is James O'Bore or Jobsworth, the Jeremy Kyle of the Ramonas. After your lovely comments, fanboy, I decided I will not let you down, and so I decided to do a video with yours and my hero, James O'Brien, where he talks about this very same subject, and he talks to the very same guy who made the Twitter thread. Enjoy, fanboy.
Speaking of messes that may or may not be unfixable, you may remember, obviously if you're still clinging to the carcass of the idea that Brexit was a good idea, you'll be desperately pretending that fish were never mentioned and fishermen were never mentioned as one of the only areas of British life that could expect an improvement to their terms and conditions, to their existences as a result of leaving the single market and the customs union. They have been comprehensively shafted, but again, it is to be hoped that these problems can be fixed. It may already be too late for some. The BBC, once again, cowed as it is and denying observable reality, describing an overnight ban by the EU having left some Cornish fisher folk facing penury and bankruptcy, which would make you very cross, wouldn't it, with the EU, if it was true. Here is the Secretary of State for the Environment, George Eustice, talking to Cathy Newman on Channel 4 News recently. And then I'm going to share with you a document that I have stumbled across as a result of hours of research, found it on Twitter, which... well, it'd just be an interesting comparison to make, and then we'll speak to someone who really knows his onions, or rather, oysters.
And although there's no legal impediment to this trade, the European Union told us a couple of weeks ago that they weren't going to allow it to continue.
Well, actually,
so we're working with them on that.
To be clear, they haven't had a change of heart. They've said quite specifically the rules in this area have not changed. They have applied and continue to do so to all third countries. This is not new, and it is not a surprise to the UK administration. You should have known about it all along.
No, this is a trade that they don't do with any other third country. And it is somewhere where they've changed their position. We had
That's not what they say. Either they're right.
No, they're not right.
Right, they're wrong.
Not right. They are wrong. We do know what they say. We're very familiar with this body of law. We lived with it for 50 years, and we've got technical experts in this area. We had actually discussed it with the Commission, and the Commission had told us the trade could continue.
Are they just making it up then?
Yes, they told us the type of export health certificate that could be used, and their own both public health and animal health laws do provide for the trade to continue. What happened is that the Commission decided, and this was a late decision, that they only took on the first week of February, that they were actually going to change their mind and not allow that trade to continue after all.
So what are you going to do about it?
Well, we're in a dialogue with them because it's an indefensible decision. There's no public health or even animal health grounds for these sorts of restrictions.
Can you guarantee that the government won't let a single shellfish exporter go bust because of Brexit?
Well, what I can say is that...
can you guarantee that you're not going to let a single one of these businesses go bust because of the decision that you took to leave the EU?
Well, of course, I can't guarantee what will happen to individual businesses.
OK, so you heard that, right? There was a categorical claim that the EU had changed its position, that they were either lying or misleading. You, remember, that's the point, or the British government, represented there by George Eustice, the Secretary of State for Environment. claiming that they'd done it. Was it the first week of February, first week of January? You heard that, right? I wasn't dreaming. So this is something published by the government in March of 2019. This is a British government document. You can find it yourself. It's entitled Exporting or Moving Live Fish and Shellfish. This is, I think it's from March of 2019. The EU Commission has indicated that undepurated LBMs, that's live bivalve molluscs, from Class B waters cannot be imported from Great Britain into the EU for the purpose of depuration, which is a fancy word for purification. This affects both wild harvested live bivalve molluscs and those from aquaculture. The FHI, I don't know what that stands for, but my next guest will tell us, are unable to certify for these consignments until this situation is resolved. DEFRA, which is the department of which George Eustice is now the Secretary of State, I think, is continuing to look for a solution to allow exports of wild harvest live bivalve molluscs to the EU to resume. So we clip it right down just to the bit where he claims the EU is lying. Just that 20, 30 second window, because I want to get to the bottom of this. Someone's not being straight with us. It's either the British government or it's the British government. Because this document was published by the British government. George Eustice is the Secretary of State for the Environment, and the Department for the Environment, Farming and Rural Affairs has published in black and white, it's in front of me now, a statement which categorically describes the impossibility of transporting unpurified live bivalve molluscs from Great Britain to the EU. And I know you're probably still pretending not to care and insisting that you knew what you were voting for, but at some point you're going to have to start objecting to being lied to, if that's what's happening here. And we'll move a little closer to knowing whether it is or not now, because Tom Haward is an 8th generation oysterman, which is a wonderful, absolutely wonderful phrase, but it means that you really know what you're talking about when it comes to oysters. So 2 things, Tom. Thank you for your time. We'll start with the question of whether any of your colleagues, whether any industries, your company, Richard Howard Oysters, based in West Mersey, are you aware of any companies that have already gone to the wall? Because that was the warning. And then second, who do you think is telling us the truth here? The document that I've just read out, or the Secretary of State for the Environment?
Yeah, I mean, morning.
Hello,
yeah, I mean, I know, because we're part of the Shellfish Association of Great Britain, we're in contact with shellfish producers all around the UK, whether that's oysters, mussels, cockles. And I do know of guys, particularly the mussel sector, that have basically come to a complete halt, because they harvest their mussels and then send them straight off into Europe unpurified, because there's a big market for mussels in places like France and Belgium, and those guys over there then handle them and process them and treat them to get them to the customer as fresh as possible. So those guys have been, I mean, they're talking a complete grind to a halt.
And to be clear, while they try to sell it as an overnight EU ban, it would be illegal for those guys to sell their mussels here unpurified in the UK. So it's not as if they can simply offload them on British fishmongers and supermarkets and hope that they...
Yeah, exactly.
That's just unbelievable. That's the first thing I contacted you about on Twitter, because I read your magisterial tweet on the subject. There's a long thread of explanation, and I just thought at the end of it, hang on a minute, these fellas can't even sell their mussels here because of our food standard laws.
Well, exactly. I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, people... There seems to be a misconception that it's just you grab some oysters, you grab some mussels, throw them in a box and send them to a customer or something like that. But there's rigorous standards, and rightfully so that there are rigorous standards there that we have to abide by to make sure the food we eat is safe. And these mussel guys, there's a couple of caveats there. One, not enough people in Britain eat shellfish. So these mussel guys are my oysters, not enough British people are interested in them, because for whatever reason it is. So it's basically shrunk the market and meant that we are limited on where we can put food. Yeah. And again, there's not enough depuration facilities in this country for lots of people to be able to get their product out there.
And it's something we could build. I mean, again, whether or not enough businesses are still in place by the time the depuration plants have been built is moot. But you're of particular interest because you've got quite a big purification operation as part of your business already.
Yeah, we do both. I mean, and that's the thing, is we I mean, I've been looking at this situation for the past 3 years, and because I didn't trust from the very beginning that there would be a clear and decent kind of conclusion to all this, and I thought it's going to be chaos for the industry. I mean, I've actually been changing our business model for the past 3 years to make sure that we can deal with Europe basically not being a partner anymore and not being a customer anymore.
What did you see? Because at the time, and like you, I don't want anybody to come away from this conversation thinking that the companies that have been banjaxed by the new trading arrangements, by us becoming a third country, only have themselves to blame for the situation that they're in. Because I know you are not in any stretch of the imagination saying that. But what did you see? Well, the media conversation, the politics of it was telling fishermen in particular that they were going to be the big winners of this process. Why did you see something that many of your colleagues and indeed competitors completely missed?
Because it was lies. Ultimately, I saw through the lies. And I think you judge a person very much by the content of their character. And to be honest, the people that were spouting these grand gestures that it's going to be this revolution for the fishing industry were not people that I would trust to look after my unborn child when it's born. You know, I just wouldn't trust them at all. And I could see that it was just empty slogans, and that's ultimately it. It's empty slogans they were using for this adulation and for votes. But there was no practical procedure behind it. There was nothing pragmatic about what they were saying, because as an industry, as a very small part of a very big pond, excuse the pun, you know, I could even see the issues that were going to hit us hard, and I thought, well, if I can see these issues, and I'm by no means an expert on trade, and I'm no means an expert on the intricacies involved in getting a trade agreement, I saw the issues that were going to come ahead. So I thought, right, we've got to be prepared for this. And so for the past 3 years, I've been scaling back our trade with Europe and trying to increase our domestic market. But I'm lucky in the sense that I have depuration facilities to be able to do that. Other people aren't so lucky. They were literally, if we don't have Europe, we've got nothing, and that's the problem. And it was never addressed. So
when, and this document, you'll be more familiar than it with I am, but it's pretty unequivocal. The EU Commission has indicated that undepurated LBMs from Class B waters cannot be imported from Great Britain into the EU. Now, I think I've dated that to March 2019. How do you process the Secretary of State this week saying this?
We had actually discussed it with the Commission. And the Commission had told us the trade could continue.
Are they just making it up then?
Yes, they told us the type of export health certificate that could be used, and their own both public health and animal health laws do provide for the trade to continue. What happened is that the Commission decided, and this was a late decision, that they only took on the first week of February, that they were actually going to change their mind and not allow that trade to continue after all.
So he's saying that you've been wasting your time and money getting ready for a thing that was only came into play on the beginning of February.
Well, I'm just a bit flabbergasted by it, to be honest, because from what he's saying is that ultimately they were just saying to each other, oh, this will be okay, but nothing was written down. So, you know, it's surely if it's, I mean, they made it out that fishing was the massive area of Brexit it was almost like their campaign slogan. Surely they would have got every single minute detail sorted for that, as opposed to just saying, oh, we spoke about it, it's going to be fine. I mean, that to me is nonsense. And I let's be honest, I honestly believe that's a lie. So. Okay.
Eighth generation. How many greats is that? What was your? Who set it up? Great
grandfather.
How many?
Fifth great grandfather.
Great granddad.
Yeah.
And you're going to be all right.
We still walk across the same bit of mud that he walked across in the 1700s, picking up oysters. It's a wonderful.
Can I come and see you one day when all this is over? I'd love to have a look at what you do. Would that be all right?
Take you for a boat trip.
That would be absolute. I'm so late for the break, Tom. I'm so grateful to you for your time, and I'll retweet all the available information. But I just find that so magical. I really do, and I'm so sorry for what your whole trade is going through. If only someone had warned your colleagues and competitors, eh?
That one's just for you, fanboy. But what I find interesting is that you seem to have a go at somebody who's telling you the truth And you're arguing with a man who's got 8 generations worth of experience as an oysterman, and you're on the side of the liars. I found that really interesting. It's James O'Brien basically proved to you people who sold you Brexit are now lying to you. You have a man who knows his oysters, is telling you they are lying to you, and you're on the side of the liars. But you'll have a go at me for apparently saying one of James O'Brien's favourite words. I've said hey ho all my life, but I find it interesting that you use the word Ramonas twice. Who taught you to say Ramonas? So if I'm guilty of using James O'Brien's words, aren't you guilty of doing the same thing then? That's the reason why I mentioned this comment, because I just found it really, really interesting. Apparently I'm shilling. I'm not. I don't make any money out of this. But anyway, Home Slice, if you want to hear me say hey ho a little bit more and profess my undying love for James O'Brien even more, why don't you click subscribe and click the bell? You'll be able to hear me do it all the more. But anyway, I'm not going to go on one of these long monologues now, because I think the video's gone long enough. But I shall leave the video here, and I shall bid you farewell until the next time. Bye for now.